Welcome to Books. We are back with our next book in the J.D. Evans Mages of the Wheel series.
Yep.
This book is number 0.
Mm-hmm. Technically.
Yes, technically. And it's titled Wind and Wildfire.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And let's just get right into our initial thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm going to apologize to J.D. Evans. I am so sorry that I didn't want to read this because it has easily been ranked one of my favorite books of the year. It's on my favorites tab in Goodreads. Like, I loved it. I have not stopped thinking about it for weeks.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't help that we're continuing the series.
Yeah.
So we learn more about it and we're like, wow, does everything make sense now?
I know.
Yeah. No, same page as you. Like, my condolences. That was, we were so against, like, we don't want to read it. I don't want to read it. I don't care about Kadir. I don't want to hear his story.
Didn't really even care about the Sultan. I felt like,
yeah, I was like,
I don't know if it's from the first book. Like, I just thought I knew enough.
Yeah.
Nah,
we need more, actually. Please and thank you. No, I thought, happily admit I was wrong about not wanting to read this book. Same, it's probably like it's either tied for the best book in the series for me or the best book in the series. One of the two.
Tied with
probably the first one,
Rain and Ruin.
Yeah, the Rain and Ruin was just really, really good.
You loved it, yeah.
It was just so wholesome.
Yeah.
So,
that's
man, it was just so good. I loved the main characters. I loved the banter that we get. Loved learning more backstory. I found myself highlighting way more than I typically do in books because, like, oh, this ties into what we saw here. Like, oh, this could be a Chara. Like, oh, here it's this. Like, I felt like I was theorizing a lot more.
Yeah.
Because of where we read this book. Like, we read it first, we wouldn't have, like, really seen much of anything.
No. And I think, I'm just going to say my hot take. I loved reading this book fourth.
Yeah.
I think some people are reading it first, and I think that's a mistake. I genuinely think that's a mistake. Mm-hmm. I think that you learn what you learn in books 1, 2, and 3, and then this book is like, I don't know. It kind of gives, I guess, like Assassin's Blade vibes. Like, you read it out of order. Like, that's technically supposed to be book 4, but we read it first. Like,
right.
I would never change that reading order, in my opinion. I don't think I'd ever change this reading order. I don't wish I would have read it first or sooner or anything like that.
Yeah, I did notice, like, the way it was, some of the, like, paragraphs were like, oh, this is what it means to stand a circle. This is what a chart. And, like, it was, like, going into more detail. It's like, oh, well, we kind of already know that from books 1 through 3. But, yeah, so I think it is written to be read first. Well, it's book 0.
Yeah, but it was published in the order that we've read it. Yeah.
Which I think is
ideal.
If
you haven't read the series yet, hold this one until book 4.
Yeah, and don't be deterred by Kadir. It is so worth it.
Yeah, it's so worth it.
It's really good.
All right, Lily, with our synopsis.
Oh, that's a great question. Let me pull that up. Let me just give you a little. Here's what's happening. No, actually, I can't do that. Let me just pull it up. Yeah, I did not have that ready.
We can give you a little bit of what's happening.
Okay.
This is the story of Naime's parents. Yeah. The Sultan, who we learn his name is Omar, and Dilay, so her mom. And we kind of learn how Behram Kadir fits into, like, we kind of learn his reasoning for being the way he is, the total shithead.
Yeah.
Omar is the prince in line for the throne. We know that he's a veritor from book 1, which we know what that has done to his mind because we know that he's sick in book 1 as well. And then Dilay, while she is a noble, she is a low-born noble.
Right.
And her dad is a judge on the council. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like the backstory from what we've learned.
Right. And so essentially this is short, but we're essentially, Omar's having a hard time controlling his magic because he's the future sultan.
Mm-hmm.
But he's having a hard time letting the magic is hurting him when he's like reading people's memories. And it doesn't help that we learn that the sultan at the time, Omar's dad, is having him verify and use his magic on super simple like tasks and like judgments essentially, when they should be handled by a judge.
Yeah.
Like really simple things that you don't need to go into someone's memory and like hurt them the way it really does hurt them and mess with their mind. Because the sultan at the time wants to be seen as all powerful and that nothing can get past them. But we already know that. You don't need to have Omar like essentially killing himself to find out, which Omar doesn't technically know at the time.
Yeah.
Which we learn.
Yeah.
So essentially Omar's struggling to control his magic while he's using it, so he can't touch people.
He's scared of touching anyone. Because
anytime he touches them, he then is like brought into their mind, basically. And we learn Dilay is a professor at the university where she worked her way up. She's the only female professor. Mm-hmm. So she's a boss bitch, as we know. And, we come to find that there's an agreement where Omar needs to learn how to control his magic, and Dilay is the perfect person to do that. And so that's the story of that, and how Kadir kind of fits into this. Yeah. And again, this is Naime's parents, so it's like Dilay's probably like 25. We're thinking 25, late 20s.
It's the prologue. It's
So,
how we get to where we are in book 1 when we're trying to understand why Kadir
is a bitch,
hates Naime so much. Yeah. Which this is, we'll get into it.
Yeah. Well, let's just get right into it then. So we have Dilay. Mm-hmm. Another girl boss is in our midst. Yeah. Which makes sense. Again, Naime was the original girl boss, which makes sense why, Dilay was the girl boss as well. Yeah. I just loved her story. I love that she's a teacher. Not just a professor at the university, but she teaches students that so I think the
struggling
university
with control
or just young students.
No, she's teaching lowborns how to control their magic, because at this time lowborns don't have a place to learn control. So if you're born poor, then you just have to figure out how to use your magic, and there's no one to teach you.
The university is only for nobles.
Yes.
Or like high council people.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't get to the school. You can't get into the university.
It's technically illegal for lowborns to be taught at the university. Yeah. And we find out that Dilay is teaching lowborns as well as her university students.
Yeah. We also learn that she's not only teaching lowborns, she's teaching there's a term, people who don't have magic. Mm-hmm. She's teaching there was like a gnolls. Yeah. Like, she's teaching gnolls about magic too, because I think her point is like they should understand how things work.
Yeah, we live in a world with
this is a world where
people.
This is like going on. So we kind of learn about that. She's a smart cookie, and she's so sassy. Oh my gosh, I have some quotes. I just love how she treats everyone equal. Mm-hmm. I think that's the big thing, where it doesn't matter you're the prince. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Yeah. You're high noble, I don't care. Yeah. I treat you the same as I treat my students, basically. Yeah. Which is so fun. I love that.
I loved that she wasn't actually super powerful. Mm-hmm. Like, she has magic, but she's not the most powerful. Like, I loved, because in books 1 through 3, the female characters are very strong. Naime is not the most powerful, we learn, but she is still the sultana.
She's still the highest,
right?
Air mage, but not.
Dilay is just pretty normal. Like, she's a teacher.
Yeah. Well, she's still the highest like mage rank, but she just has great control. That's what she's known for.
but like you don't ever really think of her as super powerful. Like there are times in the first book with Naime that you're like, oh, this girl is strong. Mm-hmm. I never really felt like that, and I thought it was refreshing to know that like she, like her whole purpose was not to be super powerful. It was to teach others how to have control of their magic and then be super powerful. Mm-hmm. I love that about her.
Yeah, no, I think she was a really fun main character to follow. And yeah, she like walks in both worlds, basically. Yeah. Since she is a low-born noble, she is, well known because of her dad in like the high council and, the people at the palace, but she knows everyone who, the merchants, the field workers, the dock workers.
Yeah, like she knows everyone in the city.
Yeah, she's
of
teaching
Tamar,
because she's teaching their kids likely how to use their magic.
And I think also we learn early on in the book that Dilay actually meets Kadir in an alley, and they're young, and Kadir's being bullied by like 3 other mages, and Dilay comes to save him, and essentially kicks their butt and saves
verbally.
Kadir. Yeah. And Kadir is, I think, in awe of her at that moment, and
he's also kind of a dick to her. I mean, I don't need you to save me.
That's true.
He did say that.
That's true. But like, that's to be expected from any I feel like boy when a girl saves their butt.
It's like, I don't need you to save me. But then that's how their kind of friendship kind of blossomed. Like, that's what we see, and then we learn that.
I think she even mentions that his magic felt stifled. Like she
could feel the heat, but there were no flames.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
So essentially, she knew that he also didn't know how to control his magic or didn't know how to use it because he was older than her too. She mentioned he was like 2 turns of the wheel.
Yeah.
And she could feel that like he didn't have control or it hadn't blossomed yet or manifested.
Right. Yeah. So essentially, Dilay teaches Kadir how to use his magic and like control it, manifest it, and then we learn that Kadir is the most powerful fire mage in all of Tamar.
Yes.
And that likely wouldn't have happened without Dilay. So yeah, that's kind of how their friendship blossoms. That's like what we learn from there. And
we also, I think, learn at that time, because they run in the same circles a little bit, that Kadir doesn't have the best dad. Similar to what we know about Kadir being a father.
Yeah.
Kadir is also experiencing similar raisings from his own father, who at the time, his dad is on the council.
His dad is, he's on the council.
Yeah.
He's not the Grand Vizier, but he's on the council.
On the council.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's noble.
Yeah.
Not low-born noble, like just
he's
highborn.
Yeah. Yeah. So Kadir runs in the same circle as Omar, which is a good segue into Omar. Because, raised in the castle, grow up in the castle. Yeah. Where were you about? Want me to
you can go.
Okay.
I just love him.
He's just divine. I love him.
Perfect.
He's so perfect, and like the way he talks to Dilay, and just like, I don't know, he's just like in awe of her. Like he wants to be able to do what Dilay can do, and it's so beautiful. I think this reminded me again kind of like of Makram and Naime's story, where it's just so beautiful. Like the story of how they come together.
It is, but it's also got a little bit more of that like Isel Bashir like back and forth banter.
Yes.
So like
100%.
It's not just like wholesome and sweet and loving like the first book. It's got a mix of the two.
We start with more like tension, not necessarily hate, but like annoyance. They're like annoyance to lovers or something.
When we meet Omar, he doesn't think anyone can help him. He's had people try. He doesn't feel like he'll ever really learn control. He thinks he just kind of has to grin and bear what his dad's putting him through. And his I don't want to say his servant, but like his
steward
tells him of Dilay at the university.
Is it the steward? Oh no, I think it's the palace doctor.
Or that.
Yeah.
It's one of them.
One of them. Yeah, I think it's the palace doctor's like, hey, you should reach out to Dilay.
They
Dilay
both,
helped
yeah.
Kadir, and then Omar goes to Kadir and he's like, so like, what's the deal? And then Kadir's like, yeah, she helped me with my magic.
Mm-hmm. And so he ends up seeking her out.
Goes to the university where she's teaching.
Mm-hmm. And before that, Dilay has actually seen him in court being a verifying someone that didn't even need it. There's back and forth. That's kind of the thing. So she's actually scared of Omar. And when he comes to the university, she thinks that like she's going to be caught for what she's been doing with the lowborns. She is scared that, he's going to use his magic on her. And come to find out, he's just coming to ask her for help.
Yeah, just sit in on a class.
Yeah.
Which was so freaking cute.
So cute. I know every interaction between them was so perfect.
And it was so good because Dilay like just knew how to like kind of get a reaction out of him or try to.
Mm-hmm. She poked the bear.
She would poke the bear because she didn't care that he was a prince. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't care. You're sitting in my class. You're a student.
Yeah.
If you want to be here. I have this is from, I can't remember the first time that he's in her class, but so there's a scene where in the classroom where they're doing like the feather thing where they're all trying to use a feather, but they have to get it through like a windstorm, whatever that Dilay had put together. And it's the scene where Omar like kind of finds a loophole and like does an air blast to get the feather through or whatever. And then the quote is, oh my goodness, hold on. I thought it was so funny. It was, after he does it, it's like, someone who is preoccupied may have no trouble casting a powerful, undirected spell. She cut her gaze sideways to him in a distinctly accusing look, such as an air blast, but will be unable to focus enough to cast their voice across the courtyard. And he said his temper prickled, and he clapped his hand behind his back to silence his retort that he had absolutely no trouble casting his voice anywhere. Like, it's just so, like, childish. They bicker.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
But, like, playful bickering. It's like, it's never...
She essentially said, like, you have a small dick. She's like, no, I don't.
Honestly, yeah. Essentially, she always calls him out for not... Because she knows he's... She can feel... Again, it's like she can feel people's power. Yeah. Somehow she can, like, tell it's part of her magic. But, like, she can tell that he's powerful. More powerful than his dad. And his dad runs circles around him, and she just hates that. Yeah. She doesn't like, she thinks that, and also his dad's kind of a shithead. He kind of believes, similar to Kadir in the first, like, the books that we've read so far, that highborns are kind of the best and lowborns are kind of the worst.
And like Omar knew that his dad would probably not be very happy that he was being taught, like, learning how to control his magic by a woman was another thing. That was like, no, that's not how
Which we learn is how the council is in the first book with Naime.
Yeah, but I think that's where the connection between Kadir and Omar starts, because they grew up in similar like verbally abusive / probably physically abusive for Kadir households where they were told what to do and they had to do it, or else
they're kind of like best friends.
They felt like they had no other choice.
Yeah,
on what they could do.
It is said that they are like the best friends essentially, which I think is important to the rest of the story when we actually get to talking about Kadir. But Omar and we could talk about them for hours.
I have so many scenes either highlighted or just like kicking my feet, like, oh my gosh, where like it's Omar's POV and he like, oh my gosh, he's like staring, or like a Dilay's POV and then she's like, he stared, like the way he looks at you, it's like so like he's seeing into your soul kind of. And I think that's a main thing, because what we learn in Omar's POV is that like he's staring at her and like imagining like pulling the hair behind her ear or like touching her cheek, but he can't because he's worried he's gonna hurt her.
His POV is so good. So good. I mean, if you like tension, if you like that really slow burn, I want this person, but I can't have her. On top, not only can he not just physically touch her, he's slated to be married.
Yeah.
Similar to Naime in the first book. When she's got suitors who are, best suited for her to be married to. Omar is going through the same thing right now.
Yeah.
And so not only can he not physically touch her, but he knows he can't like her either.
Yeah, he knows he could like her, have a little tryst, and then be over with, but that's not really what he wants.
No, you learn as the book just goes on, and the back and forth, like she also doesn't really want to love him or like him because he is who he is, and she knows she's never going to have the opportunity.
Yeah.
But there's a scene, I think he comes back to the university, and I might be getting it confused. But they're both in there, they're going back and forth, and it's the first time like he really like goes to touch her, I think. And she's like, we should keep a table between us.
Yeah.
I'm just like, because she's like, nope, and he's like, you're right. Like,
yeah, the tension's just so good.
Yeah, the way it's beautiful.
Yeah, because again, it goes from like bickering, like, don't say that about me. I can cast my voice just fine, kind of thing, to like opening up on a rooftop together and not wanting to part ways and like wanting to keep talking, but it's about to rain and freaking Kadir's third wheeling and he doesn't even know it. Is waiting on the bottom of the roof for them to stop talking, and so he can like walk Dilay home or whatever. But it's just so beautiful.
You also learn that, like, I mean, I guess we can go in. I mean, we're already kind of talking about spice and tension.
Yeah.
10 out of 10, the spice and the tension.
It's
the spice it's not spicy.
No.
Really.
But the tension does what it needs to do.
It's
a slow burn.
It's the writing too. J.D. Evans, I don't know what you put in these books, crack something to make me want to keep like the longing. It's like a longing in this book that you're just like, God,
yeah,
I want you to be together so bad, but how are we going to get out of this issue? And how are we going to get out of this issue? And like, how is, at the time, Omar can't even stand up to his dad. And Dilay just keeps telling him, you need to stand up for what you believe in, because that's what I'm doing. And I don't want to be with someone who doesn't do what they believe in.
Which is why he's so impressed by her, like where she's come from and what she was able to do. And he sees, he's like, I can't do that. She's like, no, you can't. You're choosing not to.
And he, what was it? Oh, I don't have it quoted like you do. But like where he goes back, or maybe Kadir walks in and he's like, what did she say to you? And Omar's like, she called me a shithead, pretty much. Like, she like pretty much made fun of him. And Barham goes, she what? And he's like, she did that.
Oh, like, said I have no control over my mat. Like, he basically told her, like, you were oh yes, I know what part you're talking about. It's like, I'm a toddler with no control, or something
something like where she like was always like just calling him out, like you mentioned, like always treating him like an equal, even though he's literally like the next in line
for the throne. Yeah.
But like, I just loved all those moments where she was like, figure your shit out.
Yeah.
Or get out of my classroom, pretty much.
Yeah. If you want to learn control, part of learning control is learning to do these things.
Actually learning control.
Yeah.
And he does eventually learn control.
I loved, there's some scenes where Dilay is like in the courtroom and Omar's like sitting up, and we learn that he, of course he's an air mage, we learn that he can, we already know from the first book and from Isol's Storm and Shield that you can like speak if you can use like a spell or some magic to speak, and then it only goes into a certain person's ear and it sounds like it's whispered. We learn that Omar can do that without actually speaking, And again, kind of with like same with Wind and Wildfire.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the way she writes it, it's like he's whispering, and like his head is like right here, and his mouth is like right here next to her ear. And I'm like, oh, I love these scenes.
Yeah,
you can't go wrong with
you
it.
can't go wrong with that.
Good.
Also, we also kind of miss the part where Dilay knows that his magic is harming him.
Mm-hmm.
Omar does not know. Omar just thinks that he has no control, but really, like, the pain that he feels after using his magic is normal. Like, unfortunately, is normal for him. Like, that will never go away. And we find out, like, he's supposed to take the place of his uncle. And they say his uncle died from being an alcoholic, but really his uncle died from losing his mind, which we learn is Omar's ultimate fate. I think that's the other thing about reading this book and the place that we read it. We already know kind of Omar's fate.
We also know which Dilay's not alive.
Unalived, yeah. So I think that all of that also plays into that, like, longing.
Yeah.
And that, like, I think I told Lily, it kind of gives like the Notebook vibes. And like, I think about this book similar to how I think about Manacled, where it's just like so beautiful, but it's also so depressing because we know how it ends.
We know that, exactly.
And it's just like the story of how we get to where we were in the first book. And that, I mean, longing is the best. I think we talked about lush in the first one. Longing is like the word for this book for me. Like, you just want them to touch, and you just want them to
enjoy the time that they have together, because we know it's not,
and forever. It's not enough.
Yeah, no, it's not enough.
When you read this book, you'll be like, it's not enough.
Yeah, I do think we do. Like, at this point, when we finished this book, I was like, man, it's really sad. It's really, like, really sad to think that, their story's over, and we don't get to see any more about them, growing up or raising Naime. Mm-hmm. We only see that little blip of them, like, meeting, falling in love, getting married. But then
and the villain arc for Kadir.
Yeah, the villain arc for Kadir. But yeah, it feels so fast, and so I think that's probably why it's even more sad, because then we just jump into the Sultan not mentally not doing very well, and Dilay from the first book, like, Dilay wasn't around in the first book anyway. So, like, we know it's
and
just
for how
so
long?
Sad. Yeah, and how long? What happened?
How long was Omar without her?
Oh gosh,
I know, it's the worst.
It's the worst, but also such a good book.
It's such a, like, seriously, don't skip it. Read it.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah, I have a quote from
Do it.
Page 365. It was essentially, and I think this is you just read ahead yet. I think this
I think I highlighted this one.
Yeah, like, this is like what, like, when we feel sad about reading this book, I just keep trying to remind myself of this quote, because it's pretty cute. It's like, this is Omar speaking to Dilay. I will love you until the day I die. Even if I do not remember myself, I will always remember you. Always. And we see that. It's true. We think, like, there's parts in, like, earlier books where Omar is like, where's my wife? Where's Dilay? Like, he thinks, she's still alive, and like, oh, she likes to be in the library, but that's, so, yeah, it's just so cute.
I know.
And, like, the tension is amazing. So this is where we get into Kadir a little bit, because again, it's kind of bro code. Is it not? Because what we learn is Kadir kissed Dilay when they were younger,
mm-hmm.
and Dilay let it, like, agreed, like, okay, yeah, let's kiss. And then after, this isn't. And then I think she saw him becoming more like we see him, like,
like his father, because she knows his father.
Yeah,
and she knows what his father puts him through.
Yes.
And so she essentially this whole time has just held out hope that he would take the path that she kind of takes, mm-hmm. and that Omar kind of takes.
That's the difference between Omar and Kadir.
Yes.
That's the difference, and I think that's why Dilay went with, obviously, like, Omar. Who wouldn't want to go with Omar? But I think that's, like, a piece of it, because I think, like, she was kind of down to at least date Kadir, but then, he was doing things that she did not agree with, like speaking poorly against Lowbarns, or like he like hit a servant for some reason. I think that's what happened. Like she saw that and she's like, no, this isn't. That's not how I want my significant other to treat people, or something. Like,
he also like essentially has that mindset of like she's lesser than him.
Yeah.
Like he like as adults, he always like told her what to do, told her where to be. Mm-hmm. Like in the very first, like when she's watching Omar be a Veritor for the first time, he like pulls her back. You don't want to see this. You don't want to see this. Mm-hmm. Like, no, she does. Like, let her make her own decision. And I think that was really telling. Obviously, we've read the first book, so we know how he is. Mm-hmm. But it just made it so obvious to me that like he didn't care how she felt or what she wanted. He just wanted to have her.
Yeah, it seems like from what we learned, Kadir is obsessed with Dilay, essentially. There's some quotes where Kadir is either speaking to Omar or to Dilay herself, and mm-hmm. he's saying, she is my fire. Like, I am around. The only reason I am alive right now is because of Dilay. Like, I live for her. Mm-hmm. She's my fire is kind of a really beautiful quote, but not coming from Kadir. Like, ugh, God.
Like, it would be. And I think, while I don't agree with his villain arc, I really don't. Like, I don't think, like
how did we get here?
I don't think that, like, what he goes through is worthy of his vengeful.
Trying to kill their daughter.
Trying to, like, literally, yeah, like, whatever he's up to, because we know he's up to something. Mm-hmm. Not just killing Naime. Not just wanting to be in control, but he's up to something. We know he's treating his own son like nothing. Mm-hmm. And it just is so interesting to see him before he was really quite as cuckoo.
Yeah.
As he got to be. Mm-hmm. But he always had that bit of cuckoo. And I think almost too, like you talk about his obsession, made me think like, I feel like Dilay besides Omar, may have been the only other person in his life who was ever nice to him.
I think so.
And that, like, he was obsessed with him. He loved Omar. Omar was his best friend. And he would have...
I think he loved him in a sense where he did stuff for him. He always wanted to be better than him, though, and more powerful than him. I don't think it was like it was a best friend, but I don't think he
wanted to be, because even Omar said, he just is. He's better at languages. He's better at math. Yeah, he's better at this.
But Kadir was like, I feel like, yes, they were best friends, but I think it obviously began as, I'm going to be friends with the prince because, come on, he's a prince. I'm going to be able to do something. Like, I think it was selfish why he became friends, and like, he is a selfish person. I think that's one thing. Yeah. But they did become best friends because I think there were times where they bond over, again,
both being physically abused.
Yeah.
Yeah. And mentally abused. And
yeah, which is why I think Kadir has such a hard time when, the only two people that were nice to him are interested in each other. And he spots them in Omar's bed through a window. Yeah, and then it goes downhill from there.
Because
that's when the villain arc begins.
I mean, it had already kind of started, I think. Because did he...
I think that was the moment it started. Because that was the moment, like, around that time is when they learn about where Omar lets it slip that Dilay is teaching lowborn students illegally. And then, because he thought Kadir knew, but no, Kadir didn't know, because Dilay never told him that. Because again, the way he acts,
the way he was turning out to be.
Yeah.
She always held out faith for him, though.
She did.
She really did. She always thought, like, I can save him. He can be saved.
And all the people around her were like, cut him loose.
Yeah. She never gave up on him.
No, she didn't.
Until she did.
Because
she has to eventually. Like, he like, tries to marry her. he like proposes to her, and she's like, no, I don't love you like that. And then in his hate, after he sees them, I guess in the bedroom kind of fooling around, great scene, honestly.
Beautiful scene.
He then has her arrested, and all of her teachers at the school that she's teaching, and they like take women and children aggressively, I might add, they call it the cliffs.
The cliffs.
Horrible. They're not going to feed him all this stuff,
or they feed him once a day.
Children.
That's
Anyways,
ridiculous.
It was ridiculous, and all because he was jealous. And not only that, again, he was going to keep all these people there. He pulls Dilay out, thinking, "Oh,
I'll save you."
Yeah, she'll be so happy that she doesn't have to stay here. No. It's so obvious he does not know her.
Yeah,
he doesn't, and that's the thing. Like he doesn't love her. He just wants to have her.
Mm-hmm. He's obsessed with her.
Yeah,
that's a good way to work. He doesn't love her. He just wants to have her.
Like, and not the good kind of obsessed.
Yeah, no.
The ones where you get restraining orders and you call the cops.
Yeah, it's not good. It's just so crazy. And like we also get a little inside. Like I do feel bad for him in this moment. I do feel bad for him because again we get a moment where Dilay goes to court and trying to, because again another piece of this, like a more of a on the politics side of like the world building essentially, is there's a kind of a fight to see who is going to be something with the merchants, like the grand merchant or whatever it is, like one of the high part of the merchant guild, between Kadir's dad and Osman's dad, essentially. Like they're both kind of fighting for the highest level of merchant stuff. I can't remember the term.
Yeah.
And then Dilay goes to court trying to like defend like Kadir's dad should not. This just no. Papa Kadir is a no. Like, and essentially, which is probably another reason why Bahram was so upset, is because, Dilay kind of outs some of the things that he told Dilay outs a lot of the things that Kadir told her in like confidence. Like, this is like how my dad's treating me. This is what's going on. And so she stands kind of in court and tries to say that, and like in terms of trying to keep Bahram out of it as much as she can, but trying to get the dad out of there.
And mostly then, because she also feels that if she can get his dad out of the powerful places that he is, maybe
and like in trouble,
maybe it saves Kadir.
Yeah.
Bahram.
Yeah. And I think and then at that moment, the freaking someone is like, oh well, let's have Omar verify that these things are true. And then there's the moment of, okay, well, is now Omar going to read Dilay's mind, and it's going to be painful and hurt. Mm-hmm. And then Bahram goes in and takes her place, and then he reads her mind and couldn't glean anything because there was just so much anger and sadness and hate and like loneliness that he saw inside Kadir. I was like, fuck.
It is really sad, but at the same time, like, he had the opportunity to be better.
It seems like he doesn't love himself enough to be. It feels like he thinks he might like deserve this, where he's like staying here and doing this because he deserves. Like, this is just, he doesn't. I feel like he just doesn't trust or love himself enough to try and find a different path.
Essentially, it is the same thing for Omar, though. When we first meet him, he feels like he's got no other choice. He's going to be lonely and in pain and have to do what he's told for the rest of his life.
Which we learn it's not the case.
But the difference is, and we meet Omar and Bahram at very similar times in their lives, where they're both dealing with the same things: abusive parents, just grin and bear it type things. And they both have Dilay in their lives too. Only Omar actually listens to her and takes what she's teaching and improves his life based on what he's learning from her.
And I kind of agrees with the path that she wants Tamar to be at.
Yeah, where Barham, like, he never learns. He never, like, it always seemed to me like he felt like he was better than her and, like, above her, even though, like, he could have learned so much and his life could have been so much different if he just would have taken the same. And I'm not even joking. If he took the path that Omar took, potentially he may have had more of a shot with Dilay.
Oh, 100%.
Like,
1,000%.
It's not like he's ugly.
Yeah, we know he's, like, at least attractive.
Yeah, she says it. She says he's attractive.
Yeah.
Just not up here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh.
It's crazy stuff.
I do hate it. I do hate that he is how he is.
Yeah.
But also knowing what we know and how he's literally trying to kill their daughter in the next part of the book, and, like, he's up to other fishy stuff.
It's crazy how he got there.
How long he can hold on to that resentment and that hate, like, and justify it as, like, the only people I ever loved ruined me. Get over yourself.
Yeah. I think he's doing what Cassian did. Angry, wants revenge, but he just didn't have that person to have him see that there's another path, like Cassian had Amara. Mm-hmm. He only sees that there's this road to revenge, and I need to do these things to make this right, to make this feel right. Mm-hmm. And that's the only thing he can see. So I do have some sympathy for him. At the same time, like, don't try and kill her freaking daughter. Like,
she had nothing to do with it.
It's crazy. I have a feeling, I think I've told you this, I have a feeling Naime looks, like, very similar to Dilay, is my guess. Like,
so he, like, hates her just
because she looks like her. Because I know that's a thing that a lot of I've heard about with other families. Like, they don't like their daughter because, or their son, because they look like
so and so.
So and so. They look like the other person.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I think this kind of can tie into, like, the theories a little bit that we can talk on.
I was gonna say villains. You have, like, Barham as a villain. He is, but so is, I feel like, the current Sultan, Omar's dad, because we learned that he beats Omar with a cane.
Well, he doesn't.
Well, he doesn't.
He has someone else do it.
But still, might as well be him.
Yeah.
And honestly, Kadir's dad, which we never really learned much about him, just fine. But essentially, we know that he is just as bad as Kadir now, if not worse, with how he treats him. So I think those are villains too, because, and honestly, I kind of, for most of the book, thought Omar's mom was a villain too.
Yeah.
For her hate with Dilay.
Yeah.
But, like, then Omar is like, the minute she stops giving you shit is when you know she doesn't like you. So
she's just that kind of girl.
Yeah.
That kind of lady.
She's mean. Like, I felt like she was so mean. Yeah. And then we learn also, I want to, before we go into hot takes and theories, the fig tree.
Yep, I was about to say that.
So Omar is supposed to get married to someone else. Sahara, that's her name. And Dilay comes, and that's actually when the bedroom scene happens, isn't it?
No.
Is that
bedroom scene is, he's, like, in bed because he's in mage sleep.
Yeah.
He did way too many, like, verifying.
Okay.
It's a different part.
Yeah. But she does come.
It's the stare into the library where he's wearing glasses and just his sala or whatever. Yep.
He's looking normal.
Yeah, like she's like, I could look at you like this all day.
Yeah. She brings a fig tree so the Sultana can look at the fig tree, because right now the, like, courtyard is bare and not very pretty. And she also, like, tells him, like, I want you to have something that is from me, so you don't forget me. And
yeah, so you can look at it and remember.
Yeah. Me. And then essentially he's like, but I don't have to do that. You could just marry me.
Yeah, that's when he's like, he's reading books, like, well,
yeah,
before the Sundering War, this other Sultan prince married a commoner to help, like, bring the city together, the people together. And so then he proposes that as the idea to his dad, like, hey, let me marry Dilay because, like, really, this was gonna help a lot of stuff, and it did. It did help. You know, she brought one of the like her. They essentially made a deal. I remember where it was like, all right, yeah, I'll like I'll marry you if I have some like conditions. Like the university
stays open.
Well, no, not necessarily stays open, but it provides scholarships to lowborn students who like pass a test in some way to get into the university.
Yeah.
Because then that's how we learn. That's how Bashir was able to go to the university, because Naime, like, essentially gave him a scholarship and had him go to the university. Yeah. Which I thought was really cool.
And then also, he like doesn't just keep one university; he opens multiple schools. Like his whole thing is like, why just one? Like you can have multiple. Like I will give you anything you ask for, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like she's saying, like she's of that opinion. You know, she walks in both worlds, so she's like, I've got to negotiate for this marriage, but in his mind, he's just like, girl, no, you don't.
You can have whatever you want.
You just marry me and you can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And like I love that he just doesn't want to change anything about her. He's like, I don't, because she even says that, like, I don't want to wear pretty dresses and just, you know, and he's like, you don't have to do any of that. You can be exactly how you are and be a queen by my side.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really beautiful. Yeah, and I think
I loved it.
Yeah, it was just such a great like romance. It was just really beautiful. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful story. From where we from it is very depressing as well. But again, just remember this quote: even if I do not remember myself, I will always remember that. So, yeah, I think that kind of goes like for hot takes and like theories. Again, we're getting more snippets and more tidbits about Seymour and who the fuck his parents are. We don't know. Well, I mean, like,
as you know, we think
Seymour is the fifth house child.
Yes,
because it's just we don't know where the mom is. We learned in the last book that the mom is an earth mage. I remember that. We learned that. I can't remember how, but we learned his mom was an earth mage, and we're like, well, how the hell earth? Like, we were so confused. So essentially, Zahara, who was supposed to marry Omar, that gets called off, and Zahara then is engaged with, because I think what happens is Omar is like, here's the whole thing.
Here's the whole thing a little bit.
Yes, he does, because Omar was trying to tell his dad, like, if I marry an earth, like, I should marry another air mage so the Veritor line can stay strong, like, so I can potentially have another Veritor. Yeah. Essentially, that was just his way to get out of marrying Zahara. But then his dad, Sultan's like, all right, yeah, that's fine. And Zahara's dad is the Grand Vizier. That's another thing to note. So this is a really powerful marriage.
Yeah.
So then essentially the Sultan is like, all right, Kadir's dad, you want to marry Bahram with Zahara? And then Omar's like, fuck.
Not only because it's betraying Bahram, he's putting Bahram in the exact same position he was just in, and he knows he's going to hate that.
Well,
but also he puts him in line
for being the Grand Vizier.
Yes.
Which we now know he is.
Yes. Which he was regretting, because he now, at this point, he knows, like, Bahram is just not, he's not meant to be.
He's not a good guy. He tries to be, but it just doesn't work out in his favor. So we learn that, but throughout we get little tidbits of Osman, who's also runs in this friendship circle.
Osman Altier.
Is it Altier?
That's
or is it Altamar? I think it was like Altamar or something. I can't remember. Osman. Whatever.
Osman.
Oz. Wicked. OMG. Okay, so Osman is, we get like little snippets that Zahara like makes eyes at Osman, and we're like, okay, they like kind of like each other. Okay. And Osman's an earth mage, Zahara's an earth mage. So, and then at a certain point, we know that they're both fourth house mages, and there are hints throughout the book that they like each other, and that I think Kadir literally tattletales and gets essentially like makes Osman move away, because like he mentions that there's been trysts out of wedlock between Osman and Zahara.
Yeah.
and we learn that, and then we never see Osmond again. Like Osmond like disappears, like he goes away.
Yeah.
And Zahara marries Kadir, Bahram, and so now it's like, all right, which we already had a feeling
Bahram hates his son.
Hates his son.
He hates him because he mentions it.
Well, not in this book.
No, it does not. Sorry, we've already read the next one.
Yeah, because he's like 2 years old in this book.
But
like,
we knew
at the end. So the theory is Simul's parents are Osmond and Zahara.
Yep.
And a fire mage is born, so he just got lucky. Kadir got lucky with having a fire mage son, because like it would probably look weird if the child came out as an earth mage, because then it'd be obvious that there was something. What's the term? Yeah, a tryst, like out of wedlock.
Yeah.
Having a child that was not with your husband, essentially. So then I think our theory is that Simul is a fifth house Chara from Osman and Zahara's relationship together.
That is, and we've been thinking that
since book 2.
Yeah, early on.
Yeah. Well, I think she's sprinkled in little Easter eggs here and there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, Simul being introduced in the very first book, and I think I even in the first book was like, something's up with him, because like he's got to be nicer than he is. Something's going on. He's either abused or like something's going on in the background. And then Lily catches in the second book something around something that he did.
I feel a tug to like keep talking to him. And again, we know that Charas are all connected. So
yeah. Yeah.
So that's our theory going into the next book. What's happening?
And I think in the third book, that's when we learn more about his mom being an Earth Mage.
Yeah, we learn his mom's an Earth Mage, and then this book just kind of solidifies that idea that Zahara and Osman probably had a relationship before she married Kadir, and that Simul is Osman and Zahara's kid.
Yeah.
And Kadir is not involved in it.
Yeah.
Crazy town. As for reviews, there's a lot of 3 stars. I'm kind of surprised. Oh wait, no, there's not that. Yeah, again, no surprise. Majority of 5-star reviews here. There's actually not that many. Whoa, I'm kind of shocked. There's only 703 ratings and 106 reviews. There's not a lot of people that have read this who have read the other books. So if you're one of those people, if you're one of those people, you've read this book if you're watching this video. But I'm sure we're probably in the same boat with a lot of other people watching this. This was like, if not the best, one of the best in the whole series. Like, it's so good. Oh my gosh, you're making faces.
It's a 2-star review. Let me just read it for you. Not gonna lie, this one made me angry. Not as strong as the rest of the series, and also what the actual heck at that epilogue. I'm actually ready to quit the series over this whole Bahram thing, but as there's only one more to go, I'll give it a shot. But also, seriously, y'all are some of the most powerful people in the world, and there's nothing you can do about him.
That is fair. There's moments where I'm like, why can't you guys like arrest him and put him in the court already? Like, what is the issue?
Because they're different than him. Because he is evil, and so he will stop at nothing. He has no boundaries.
He's nothing left to lose.
He has no boundaries. And they're good guys, right? Like, they're not evil people. They are, it's the tale of all this time, good versus evil. Like, the good people aren't going to go and do dirty work.
An eye for an eye.
Yeah, they're not going to sit there and just because they think he's doing something, they pretty much know they're looking for proof and they do not have it. And so, listen here, 2-star review. Get over yourself.
Yeah.
Not a fan of that one because I gave this one 5 stars. Okay? This is on my all-time favorite reads of the year.
Star. Yeah, it's a 5-star read for me.
I keep thinking about it. I will always keep thinking about it.
So good.
So good.
We were so wrong. Thank you, JD Evans, for changing our mind. Because, we honestly probably would have skipped it.
And I would have been kicking myself.
Yeah, if we read it afterwards.
I know.
So here's a 3-star review. This one is essentially talking about 3 stars because she wanted to see more between Bahram and Dilay. Like, we barely see any positive interactions between the two. I just wish we saw good moments of their friendship, so Bahram's betray/downward trajectory felt more meaningful and heartbreaking. It's just hard for me to understand Dilay holding on to this friendship, which we are missing a part of the arc here. When we are missing a part of the arc. I can agree to that. It's like, Dilay, why do you let him keep coming back? I even think Bahram makes a comment about that, like, to Omar, because I think Omar, like, confides in Bahram and is like, yeah, Delay's upset with me right now. And I think Bahram was like, don't worry, she'll bounce back. Because she always does for him. Always.
I'm reading another bad review.
Okay.
Actually, it's making me angry. I feel physically mad at these people.
You want me to read it?
No. I was advised to read this book before book 4, but now I'm not so sure I needed to. Overall, I'm not a fan of stories about wildly competent women helping an incompetent man become competent. And in this book, Delay does that for 2 men, one of whom is especially undeserving. I also don't think it's a great choice to open a romance novel with a scene when the main character is a child. Use a flashback for that after she's introduced as an adult in a way that makes me care deeply.
Okay. You write your own book then. That's just not the way J.D. Evans wanted to write it, so that's not how she wrote it. Sorry.
That's a 3-star review. I'm just mad at that review.
That's weird.
Rude.
Yeah. I mean, but it is kind of her thing that we learn.
I think we learn that they're not incompetent. That's what makes me angry about that.
No, they're not incompetent. They're just like, they just don't stand up for themselves. That's the issue.
But that
doesn't mean they're incompetent.
No.
Like, from what we know, Bahram's super smart, actually. Like, top of the class.
Yeah.
For everything.
Super competent. He's just a dick.
Yeah. Different. It's different, okay?
And hello, you've apparently never experienced trauma.
Yeah.
Like, Omar's not incompetent. He's just dealing with literal abuse.
Yeah, he's just traumatized, like, what will happen this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rude. Piss me off.
Yeah, but overall, I mean, I feel like we could talk forever on this book, but it was a great read. We already said, 5 stars, fantastic. I can't believe we almost didn't read it. Like, that's insane. It's just such a beautiful story. But again, it just makes me sad to know.
And don't get confused. I mean, it is rated or numbered 0.
Yeah.
You could read it before book 1. You could. But I recommend not.
I mean, I'd be curious. Well, I mean, I feel like we're having a biased opinion because we did read it 4th. And we're like, this was perfect.
But the other thing is we've read the next book.
Yeah.
And it just really flows well.
I think if you have short-term memory, don't read it first. That's, I think, a big thing.
That's fair.
Because, exactly for your exact reason you said, it ties in really well with the next book. So yes, our recommendation, read it 4th, for sure.
Agreed.
Because it flows really well into the next one. But if you don't have short-term memory loss and you want to read it in the order, because that's just how you roll, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, let us know if there was anything different, if you liked it more, because it does give you more information about like Tamar, the circle, things like that.
Yeah. And I think you learn a little bit more, like, in this book, maybe why the council is how they are with Naime in book 1.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it'll set that up.
Yeah.
But you don't need to. You don't need to read this book first to know book 1.
No. I think, again, our recommendation is 4th.
Yeah.
Because it's just so good.
So good.
Yeah, it just makes me sad to know where we are with Omar and Dilay present day. Again, I'm just going to keep that quote in my mind.
So when did Dilay die?
I know.
When? How long was Omar without her?
Yeah, we don't know.
I know.
Yeah, but beautiful, tragically beautiful, I think is how I would, like, summarize this book. 5-star read.
Tragically beautiful.
Tragically beautiful. like we know what happens. We know where things kind of lead to. Sultan losing his mind. Dilay not alive for X amount of time that we're not really entirely sure of. Yeah, so good. But yeah, I think we're on to our next read though.
We are.
For next one in the series is Ice and Ivy. So we'll be reading that. So that one, Ice, we're assuming is Sean, Sean, and Ivy
we'll learn about.
We'll learn about, or you'll learn about, because we've actually read it. So
don't out us like that. Just kidding. But yeah, so like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you want to see in the next one. And we'll see you when we talk about book 5?
4, technically.
Technically 4.
Technically book 4.
But 5th in the series. Like,
5th,
right?
Yeah, 5th in our series that we're
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, see you in the next one. Bye.